Dear Dhamma friends, to start the Dhamma talk, may everyone consent with 3 times, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Konoko bhante vijnanaharo aharatiti no kallo panyoti. Dear Dhamma friends, as we all know, for the last few days we were taking one particular discourse from the Buddha and as the main theme for this series of Dhamma talks. And so far we have come up to the today, that is the last day. And our topic was Phagguna Sutta. Sometimes it is named as Moliya Phagguna. And at the starting part, the Buddha explained to the Phagguna, there are 4 kinds of nutriments, and as far as they are unhindered, undisturbed, they will keep on this perpetuation of the samsara, the vicious cycle. So therefore one has to be aware of it. That is the early part of the sutta, and that is what we were dealing so far. And after giving a careful listening, Venerable Phagguna make a question to the Buddha, now we said, Bhante, who feeds on these consciousness nutriments? The Buddha says there are 4 nutriments, that is what feeding, given the nutriment for this perpetuation of the samsara. And then leave aside the very first 3, that is the kabalinkara ahara, the edible food, second pasahara, that is contact, and the third is sankhara ahara. Leaving aside these 3, as far as the consciousness is concerned, the Phagguna is asking the Buddha, now the Bhante, who is feeding this consciousness nutriments? Then the Buddha says that question is not proper. It is not a fit question. This is kind of a linguistic problem, and it has been throughout in his teaching of the Buddha. And even up to date, this is lingering. The Buddha mentioned this something of phenomena happening in the world, as far as a being does not understand how this perpetuation happens, knowingly or unknowingly, he or she is facilitating it, nourishing it and contributing it, and ultimately end up with this vicious cycle. So therefore, understanding is what the Buddha asked for. And when he's explaining, the Phagguna is taking that passive voice into the active voice, he's asking, Bhante, who is feeding or who is facilitating this consciousness or consciousness nutriments? Then the Buddha says, it's not a fit question. I never told you that it is someone is actively or in a personal manner feeding into this consciousness nutriments. Had I been mentioned like that, your question is fitting one. But I never mentioned that someone is, or personally someone is feeding, or actively someone is feeding, or knowingly someone is feeding, or consciously someone is feeding these consciousness nutriments. And then, without giving a abrupt ending, or not to facilitate a drop ending, the Buddha says, you can raise a question something like that. Kissanuko vante vijnanaharo. After all, whatever may be the cause for the vijnanahara, the consciousness to rise, what is the consequences of the vijnana? That is the fit question. So if you ask that kind of a question, whatever may be the causative factors, if the vijnana come into being, and if you are going to ask what is the what the vijnana is going to condition, then I would say vijnano ayatin vijnanahara ayatin pubba the punabbhavani nibbattanti, natam punabbhava abhinibbattanti. Whenever the vijnana happen, this re-becoming and renewal of becoming happens. That is my fit question answer. If you are going to ask me, after all, what is the vijnana is conditioning for? Then I would say, vijnana verily create this becoming, rebirth. That is the functions of the vijnana, and due to this, for that it is the vijnana is the proximate cause, and whenever there is a abhinibbati or punabbhava, then the four faculties come into being. Whenever the four faculties come into being, the contact come into being. The series of answers Buddha give, if you verily ask me, or correctly ask me what vijnana is conditioning for, I would say it is conditioning the rebirth. And whenever the rebirth happens, the six faculties and the contact going to happen. So this is in whenever a discussion happens, or whenever dialogue happens, we often misunderstand or unconcerned about the passive voice and the active voice. Whenever something comes into the passive voice, it is really, the idea is very dramatic. Easily you can communicate with others, but you are getting committed. Instead, if you are using a passive voice, you can communicate it, but it is not so dramatic, not so very communicating, but you are safe. So, as far as the dependent origination is concerned, the Buddha says it is in a passive manner. As far as this is, this will happen. When this is not there, that will not happen. If this is going to start, that will start. If this is going to cease, that will cease to happen. Asmin sati idang hoti, asmin asati idang na hoti. There is no cursor, there is no being, there is no soul behind. So whenever being explained, it is appear like something not related, somewhere else, and therefore very difficult someone to internalize it, to digest it. It is not palatable. So whenever it is going to say, this man is the cause for, and that is the result of that, therefore if something wrong, that mistake is due to that particular person, then we have a very dramatic understanding. So this is the difference between this passive voice and the active voice. Accordingly, there are two languages in the world, the positive languages and the negative languages. The positive languages are very efficient, very sharp, very directly communicating towards this conventional truth. But they hardly can communicate the absolutes. Whenever the positive language tries to communicate the absolutes, it appears quite odd. It appears quite difficult to communicate. But there are some negative languages which usually not popular, not well used in these conventional truths, but whenever the absolutes happen, they are really communicating. Very sharp shortcuts are there. But usually they are not living languages, they are usually called dead languages, but very efficient in communicating the negatives. The Buddha used the Pali. Pali is a negative language. You easily communicate anatta, starting with a, that is negative term, anicca, starting with a, and the dukkha, this kind of thing. So whenever you are translating that into a positive language like Sanskrit and English, they appear like not much well communicating. So therefore the message itself has its own intrinsic language. Through that language you can see A to Z communication can take place, but for that you have to learn that language. You have to appreciate the message, and then only you can have a comprehensive idea, or big idea, the complete totality of the idea. So interpreting this, one person came out, here he told the Jesus Christ came to the Asia and he learned the message of the Buddha, but he understood that Pali cannot be translated into Hebrew, and the Hebrew is a positive language. So what he did was, he took the negative message from the Buddha and tried to put it into the positive language. Ultimately, the total miscommunication happened, and therefore ultimately he subjected to crucifixion. So much so, the difference between these two languages. So therefore here also, even though the Buddha is talking in Pali and Phagguna also understanding in Pali, whenever the Buddha explains something in the passive voice, the Phagguna find very difficult to understand. Therefore, in a dialogue only came to know, he asked, Bhante, who is promoting, who is bringing or carrying out, feeds this consciousness nutriment? Then the Buddha says, question is not fit. It is not a fit question. Because if you want to say yes or no, the Buddha get committed to his active attribution of a soul, a being, an entity. The Buddha says, this is happening. It is not doing. But the Phaguna's question is, who is doing? Then the Buddha says, had I been told that it is a doing, that the question is fit. But I am not telling you, it is something doing, it is something happening. But the fit question is, after all, what is the conditioning and nutriment of consciousness is conditioning what? Then I would say, it is conditioning rebirth and the renewal of the existence, rebirth, and whenever that is happening, the six consciousness, six sense spheres going to happen, and then the contact going to happen. So this is why even today we are more and more becoming westernized, and our language become more and more English. So when it becomes naturally, we are going for the sensuous gratification. These are two connected things. And more you become westernized, that means only one path, that is you will be engulfed with this conventional truth. Whenever the Absolute is going to talk, either language won't give the proper communication, or the people will not heed. So therefore during the time of the Buddha to today, this communication problem happens. There was one person known called the Gurdjieff. He was a famous spiritual teacher during the revolution of the Russia. And he traveled in India and Sri Lanka and kind of thing. He got a little bit of this ambiguity of the question, the conventional truth and the absolute truth, the passive voice and the active voice, the positive language and the negative language. So when you go back to Russia, specifically he went to France and used to talk that truth from the other worlds. So whenever he is talking, he gives brilliant talks. But the people think in the positive way, with the positive languages, find difficult to understand. They find there's something essence, but they can't understand it because the communication problem. So when he is while talking, people may raise their hand and pose questions. Gurdjieff, that you told this and that. Now you are telling this and that. How these two are getting correlated like? Then The immediate response from the Gurja was, please rephrase your question. Don't tell that, I told you this and that. Instead you say, I heard like this. Because what I tell, never you will hear. You will listen to what you wish. Not the speaker is telling. So therefore there's a huge communication gap. So whenever the question happens, the Gurja rephrase it telling, don't tell that I told you. What I'm going to tell, you will never listen. You are listening what you wish to listen, according to your likings and dislikings, according to your personality traits. So therefore it is fit to raise the question, what I heard, that I will accept it. So this would have been a hell of a problem in front of the Buddha too. He always tried to understand this everything happening due to the cause and effect. That we no soul, there's no entity, there's no being. But we can't understand, we always try to attribute it to a person. We attribute to something doing rather than happening. So, as far as this communication gap is there, our heart and the brain will never talk each other. The brain is always talking in the positive language. The heart is always in the passivity. So when the brain is going to issue a message, it appears like a commandment. And therefore heart finds very difficult to accept. When the heart is talking, the brain will say, you are talking nonsense on the emotions. I don't care how you are talking about. So I am telling you to do this and that. So that is what the fight. That is what happening in the external, and that is manifestation is inside. This rational, and this is what the Buddha mentioned. Whenever we are talking about the qualities of the Buddha, he has the great wisdom and the great compassion. Compassion is the language of the heart. The wisdom is the language of the brain. So Buddha has the complete balance in between. But no one else in the world have this balance. Either we are emotional bias or heart bias, or we are to the brain. So therefore, whenever these two happens, or comparison happens, only the communication taking place. Otherwise just chattering. Otherwise just verbalizing. So this is a very clear incident. The Molya Phagguna is asking the Buddha, who is feeding, who is bringing food for the consciousness nutriment. The Buddha says, no, it is not a big question. You better ask, after all, the consciousness nutriments is conditioning. Then I would say, it is conditioning this rebirth. It is after the rebirth, definitely, the six senses are going to happen, and then the contact going to happen. And there also it says, if you go back to the normal representation of the dependent origination, it says, Vijnana Pacca Namarupa, Namarupa Pacca Salayatana, Salayatana Pacca Passa. But here Namarupa missing. Because yesterday we took time, whenever the Namarupa and Vijnana come into a vortex, like two sides of the same coin, then only this samsaric journey can happen. So therefore, whenever it is Vijnana is mentioned, it is already Namarupa is meant. Whenever the Namarupa is mentioned, Vijnana is meant for. So therefore it says, whenever the Vijnana is there, through the Namarupa, the six sense doors are going to validate it. So even if the example we took yesterday, when we observe, when we have all the six senses open, not a single one become validated or authenticated unless the Vijnana come and second it. The Vijnana is the one going to validate which sense or which sense impingement is going to get the priority, going to get the chance. And therefore, when and where the Vijnana going to make a decision that I am going to be a seer rather than the listener or person smelling or touching, Vijnana is validating the one of the 6 sense doors, in this case, the eye and the visual object. When that happens, Thinnam Sangatipasso, visual object is there, the eye is there, then the Vijnana come and validate, and then the contact going to take place. So this is the then and there rebirth. But that is what exactly happening in a different dimension when one person ceases to exist in this life, and how the Vijnana, the momentum of Vijnana, go and implant in another place. As far as the momentum is there, it has to manifest in another rebirth. The rebirth linking, that is how it happens. Very tricky, very difficult to grasp in the rational way, but we can instead, as a Vipassana yogis, have to understand, or sometimes can understand, how Vijnana is going to select the next moment according to the 5 senses, 6 senses. So whatever the Vijnana going to select, that will be authenticating 1 out of 6, the other become nullified. And next moment, there is no agenda, it's an accidental thing, electric thing, yet another sense organ or impingements going to validate, or maybe the repetition of the same thing. So this is how the Vijnana is going to, Vijnana is working. It is completely happening, or impromptu adjustment, or improvisation, unpredictable. But if I am to say it is completely impromptu, completely electric and completely unpredictable, meditation impossible. I would restate it, as far as you don't have mindfulness, as far as you don't have satipatthana, your Vijnana is completely bewildered. That particular person has no command upon the Vijnana. Instead, Vijnana taking for such a unlearned, untaught commoner, taken for a ride. So, being that is the case, the Buddha first and foremost he says, be aware of it, so much so you are a slave than a master. So if you wish to understand this situation, and if you wish to take it under control, observe it as if no self, as if ungovernable, as if no pith, as if no agenda. So that is the first and foremost thing, one to become a yogi, one to become a meditator. And then you have to, knowing it is ungovernable, knowing it is without any agenda, it is just a monkey mind, still the Buddha says, you close 5 faculties and open your mind door, and observe the breath. That is to gain certain amount of control. That means asking mind to observe the breath again and again and again and again, even though it is behaving like a monkey mind. Even though it is behaving like a wild buffalo, taken out of the wilderness and binding in the center of the village, and it will be so unruly, and it is trying its best. So that is how the beginning meditator experience to keep the primary object face to face. But if you are a believer of the Buddha, have the faith and incessant amount of energy, ultimately you will observe few cycles of breaths you can continue. Sometimes few seconds, sometimes few minutes. So that is how, by understanding it is ungovernable nature, surrendering it to situation, and still you give a fight and ultimately take it under control. So therefore, you can say the Vijnana is completely bewildered as far as you are not meditating, as far as you are not mindful. But that does not indicate you cannot be mindful. You can try, but everyone is not a success. When happening, slowly, we take it is little under control. And they are, specifically when you are in the walking meditation, that many faculties are open. Seeing faculty, hearing, and the tactile sensation of the body. These things are open, but still you try to keep the track with the left leg, left leg, right leg, and the touch, the contact. And when you go to the turning point, all of a sudden you can see Vijnana take the upper hand. It's bewilderment. You becoming a seer, you becoming a hearer, you become a feeling of the air movements and all the kind of thing, and you get lost into your touch of the feet. So there, again the Vijnana become its own master. But you try your best, even amidst of all the seeing, hearing and possible other distractions, try to keep the track with the Vijnana. The touch. And that is how you develop the immunity towards the multitasking. And that exactly thing you have to further develop into the day-to-day activities. Still you have some intentions, the time frame and the multitasking. Under such circumstances, Vijnana get the upper hand, enough nutriments, and therefore you again become bewildered. But once you gain the certain amount of control, certain amount of mastery in the sitting, and little bit of in the walking, you can further extend into the day-to-day activities. Just observe the monkey mind. Just observe how the Vijnana make its own agenda. Often it is contradictory to one particular individual's wish, and it's a kind of a challenge in the day-to-day activities. And when and where the Vijnana going to take the upper hand, it decides which faculty is going to be invalidated, validated, which sense impeachment it is going to be validated, others are invalidated. So this is how we keep the mind open towards this ungovernable nature and uncontrollable nature, the pitless or essenceless nature, but still continue like that. So this is just to give little more interpretation towards this Phaguna's question. But once the Buddha gave that kind of clarity, whenever the Vijnana going to condition, it is conditioning the rebirth. As far as the rebirth, re-becoming conditioned, manifested, so it is the way that the six senses come into being, and then the contact happens. Then the Phagguna keep on reiterating the same misunderstanding. He says, Bhante, who brings about this contact? Then the Buddha says, that question is not valid. You must rephrase it. Had I been explained that someone is responsible to bring about this contact, your question is correct. But I never committed in that way. I never meant, therefore Buddha says, what is the cause, how this contact going to happen, going to manifest, going to come into being? If you ask in that kind of a question, then I will answer, these six senses are the proximate cause for the contact to happen. As far as the six senses are given a free chance, it is incessant manner, moment to moment, it keep on contacting the internal and external world. The visual objects are ready to contact the sensitivity of the eye. The sounds are ready to contact the ear sensitivity. Smells are touching the nose and its sensitivity. And foods are waiting, the taste, to stimulate the tongue. And all the other tactile sensations are for the body. And all the pet ideas and thinking, philosophizing to the mind. So as far as the six senses are concerned, available, contact is continuous. So therefore, not that particular person who claims this is my six senses are responsible for the contact. Contact is completely happening rather than doing. So this is something, a food for thought, to understand, can we control our contact, or can we control our senses, or can we restrain our senses? So if you are not taking any effort, if you are rather indulging the sensuous pleasure, you are rather sending it bewilderment. But instead the Buddha says, knowing that contacts are going to happen according to the 6 senses, your prime task must be to restrain them and try to take the situation under control. That means Indriya Sangvara, that means restrainment of the faculties. So that is the Phagguna, his idea may be to entertain more and more of the senses, or sensuous pleasure, or sensuous gratification, and that is why he can't understand the passive voice. But the Buddha says, if you try to see the other way around, why this contact going to happen, it is due to the 5, 6 senses. So if someone is trying to restrain them, then one has to be very mindful and full of satipatthana, and then the restrainment going to, it is possible, and then you can reduce, control, make it docile as far as the contact is concerned. So when that happens, if the contact going to become subtle and restrained and thin, that you are weaning off the nutriments for the sansaric journey. In the Anapanasati Bhavana or in the Satipatthana meditation, whenever, I will start like this, you know the 6 senses are always very agile, very welcoming impingements, sensuous impingement. As far as all the 6 are working, situation is rather beyond the control. So the Buddha says, close 5 and open only 1 and observe the touch. In-breath touch, out-breath touch. Or rising mode of the touch, falling mode of the touch if you are observing the rising and falling. And the left leg touch, right leg touch. So touch is the one you are observing. So verily you know, once you reduce it to the, for example, in-breath and out-breath, when the breath becomes subtle, the touch is going to evolve or undergoing a metamorphosis, becoming subtler and subtler. And if you knowingly, this is what the meaning of the teaching of the Buddha, meaning of the meditation, meaning of the Satipatthana, meaning of the insight meditation, if you are not destroying it, disturbing it and continuing, it will become the subtlest. Ultimately you will come to a point where you can't perceive the breath. By the time, no touch at the eye, no touch at the ear, no touch at the nose, no touch at the tongue, not entertaining wandering mind, you have the consciously only one stream, that is in-breath and out-breath, that is also ceases to exist. And there you can lead slowly, gradually, in the gradual sequential order, from contact to no contact level. And there you can understand, even though it is a temporary thing, this is a possibility. This is something against the grain. Throughout you are promoting contact, now you are slowly going to a point where ultimately you don't know whether you are sleepy or not. So much so it is the kind of a situation you can't put into words. But you can't deny it. You can't say it is something artificial, it is something hallucination, it is something mind-made. Because gradually next day also you can go there. Next day also you can go there. More and more you go there, it will become a rather realistic. And ultimately you will interpret it as it is the real home. It's our native place rather than this be bewildered with these 6 senses. So when you go there, it's a very good sign. You can see, knowingly or unknowingly, if you are promoting the contact, you may call that you are really entertaining the world and you are really indulging the control, the contact and kind of thing. But the Buddha says you are completely becoming a slave. No control. Instead what you have to do is consciously cut off 5 and take one, give a full, complete understanding the beginning, the middle and the end. Then consciously you can go to a place where contacts are slowly reducing, and you are really facilitating it. And more you go there, you can predict it. You can credibly go into that situation. When you go there for the first time, you are going to experience immaterial pleasure. As far as the contact is there, there's a kind of a pleasure that is called beastly pleasure, animal kind of pleasure. This is the lower level, lowermost type of pleasure. But when they are ceases to exist, there's a kind of a very supreme, classic, immaterial kind of pleasure that is only possible at the celestial beings or Brahma realm. So when you are in the meditation, when you go into that level, you are feeling, you are experiencing the Brahma experience. That is called Brahma Vihara, a dwelling of the sublime level. And that is a possible way. That is, according to meditation, you can go there. And there you can understand when and then and only then you can understand human beings, only human beings have the potential to see 2 kinds of pleasures, that is materialistic pleasure and the immaterial kind of pleasure. Then only you are in a situation to compare it with. When compared with the material pleasure, immaterial pleasure, always free of charge, always no maintenance, always a walkover, there is no fight. And it is really healing you, and that is the only moment you can feel contentment, the serenity, the satisfaction. The material pleasure, never you can claim that you are satisfied. It is called atitto uno kammadaso. Atitto means it is ever insatiable. Never you will be satisfied. Ever it is a vacuum. And you will die unsatisfied. But whenever you come to the immaterial pleasure, that is contacts are completely ceases to exist, but you are fully aware of it, and you can see the contentment instead, and it is free of charge. No one is fighting. Laddha mudha nibbutim bunjamana. The Buddha says that this is rather kind of the mundane level. But that is the what which is leading to the supramundane. When you go to the supramundane, Buddha says, Laddha mudha, that is free of charge. Everything free of charge. And that you can entertain, you can experience it. It is not a hallucination. It is not the hypnotizing. It is not the conditioning of the mind. So that is how the conscious, the contact, you have to understand, you have to see contact is happening because of the multivarious diversification due to the 6 senses. Consciously, if you reduce it to one, or observe only one object and see again and again, that is called adverting the mind to only one again and again, definitely that thing will be subtler and subtler. Your contact to that, the feeling to that, the perception to that will be ever become subtle and subtle. That's a universal law. It's a chitta niyama. The niyama dhamma. It is not one thing the Buddha started. It is not what the endowment or blessing the Buddha going to give. He says, if you do, I will assure you, the contact will be reduced to, slowly reducing, and there only you will see the difference between the materialistic pleasure and immaterialistic pleasure. So, Pandita Sayadaw, when we were in Burma, He said, then only you can see the world, how childish, how breezely are these commoners. They do not know about, or they have no hope about, they have no any idea about the immaterial pleasure. They are so much vehemently fighting, jealous and envious, crazy, craving and anger, so much so for this worldly kind of pleasure. So he says, therefore, if someone to judge, if someone to make a decision, if someone to draw an inference, he must at least have these two kind of pleasures. Then only he can make a lasting kind of judgment. So therefore he says, it must be a law enforcement for each and every lawyer, each and every judge should have a jhanic experience. Otherwise their judgments are not valid. But we can say not a single judge meditate. We have no time. So therefore we can understand how the world is mad world. And we give His Highness, my educated Highness, the lawyer and the judge and kind of thing, we highly appreciate their judgments. So from the Buddha's point of view, what is this all jokes? They know only the convention. They know only the positive side. They know only the fighting side of the pleasure. And they make the judgment. So we as meditators, we fall into lawsuits because of our craviness, because of our hatred, because of our ignorance. As far as we are going for this immaterial pleasure, no lawsuits, no fighting, it's a walkover. So therefore, this Phaguna's question is not limited to Phagguna, we also have it. We think this contact is brought about by someone. And I would say, I am the person concerned and responsible for the contacts. But the Buddha says, it is not the case, it's a cause and effect relationship. If you are going to claim that all the contacts are due to me, my wish, my conscious decisions, you end up with so much of frustration, so much of mental tension, so much of self-accusation and guilt. But if you understand they are just happenings, of course not by intellectualization, that you have to experience it, and then only you can understand how the putujanas or commoners make so much of problems, frustrations and regrets, and throughout their life they find reason, more and more reason to be frustrated, more and more reason to be tense and self-accusation. So there is no second person necessary to come and punish you. Each and everyone is imposing, self-imposing their own punishment. Each and everyone is living in open prison camp. Self-imposed. Even then, we are always very boasting about our camp. We are always polishing it, landscaping it and telling we are living in a very big open prison camp. That is what the world is. Because of the person. We are always concerned about we think we are the one brought about this contact, but the Buddha says, please rephrase it. These are happenings rather than doing. So therefore we must be thankful to this Phagguna. Is asking it in the correct way, and the Buddha is rephrasing it and putting correcting him, giving him the correct way of asking a question, and then Buddha give the answer. So this is as far as the phassa is concerned, and then Phagguna is asking then who is feeling? Who is the one is feeling? Then the Buddha says that is not a big question. That if I am going to say someone is there to feel, that the Buddha accepting the soul. The Buddha says, I never mentioned such a thing. I never mentioned there is a person going to feel it, you have to ask that due to what conditioning the feeling going to happen. In the Buddha says it is due to the craving. For example, whenever something touching on your tactile body, it is going to give kind of a feeling. For example, when in the cool time, in the winter, if the heated thing touching, you consider it as a pleasurable. But in the winter, if there's something cool touching, it is considered painful. But in the summertime, the cool come and touch, you call it a pleasurable. And the heated thing going to touch, it is cold, it is painful. So exactly the same object, that due to the seasonal differences, your interpretation is completely different. And being so, we are, without understanding this, our own projection, we try to attribute this particular touching object has the pleasure or the pain. That is because of our ignorance. So therefore, if you do not have any kind of a discriminative understanding, this is good, this is bad, this must be, this not must be. So if you have a choiceless awareness, you say the touching object is the same, our interpretation can be changed. That is because of the climatic changes, our upbringing, our likings and disliking, our personality, all the kind of things. But the world always fails to understand that feelings are colored, feelings are, labeled according to the internal factor rather than the feeling itself. This, when it is explaining in a dramatic way, a Westerner, he put it this way. He says that the Tibetan Buddhism, when they are explaining about the hell and the heaven, they are interpreted in terms of their cold climate. And they say, in the Tibetan books, if someone is doing a very meritorious deeds and if they happen to go to the heaven, they will go to a very warm, very nice place, and warmness is the endowment and the blessing, that is the heaven. But if he is committing a bad thing, he will go to a very cold place, and it is called Sita Naraka, and the Sita Naraka is the destiny. But when the same thing interpreted by the Arabic people in the desert, they say if you do a crime, they will go to a very heated place and you will be burnt. But if you do a good thing, you will get a very cool, the evergreen place, and that is the way. He said the heaven in the Tibet is the hell in the Arabia, and the hell in the Arabia is the heaven in the district. I mean, this is the way. This is the way how the feelings are touching us. Each and every feeling is a dhammata, it is a cause and effect. But we never let the feeling go unlabeled and unrecognized, either good or bad. So therefore the Buddha says, don't tell the feeling is felt by a person, but if you understand, feeling becomes so due to your desire. Whenever you become less and less moved by this hedonic consideration, pleasure-seeking game, if you are ready to compromise for the moderation, your desire itself will be slowly appeasing. And then you will not be moved, you will not be carried by this pleasure principle. And you can be at the comfort zone, that means you rather will be in the no pain, no pleasure sphere. And that is the only place you can be contented with, be saturated with. And the cheapest, and the majority of the time, we are in the no pain, no pleasure, but we never appreciate it because our thinking is always in the hedonic way, the pleasure-seeking way. So therefore the pain and pleasure is completely conditioned by the desire. So therefore without understanding the malice, the malevolent nature of the desire, whatever the pleasure you are going to give, whatever the luxury you are going to get, whatever the consumerization you are going to do, it is just fueling this vortex, this perpetual samsaric journey. Instead, if you go back, look back and see what condition this feeling, it is your own desire. So therefore, whenever the Buddha is going to give the basic, the single-fold cause for this samsaric suffering, it is the desire. But it is not a person, it is a cause and effect relationship. So Phagguna is always asking the passive, active way. The Buddha is rephrasing the same and put into the passive, and still he give some explanation to understand the Dhamma in a cause and effect way. So it becomes not a personalized thing. It is not the Buddha's creation. The Buddha is opening eyes to see what is happening through our day-to-day experience. Otherwise that would have gone for nourishing this samsaric journey. Instead, whenever it is happening, if you have the correct perspective, it will relieve you from this vortex, the momentum, from the acceleration, and instead you can see how this internal craving going to decide external sense impingements with drastic categorization, dichotomy of pleasure and pain. Kamasukhallikāna yoga and Atthakilamatāna yoga, that means self-sense gratification and mortification. So the Buddha says that is the first and foremost thing. One must do away with that if someone is wish to see the middle path. That is the very first opening remark in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So therefore, each and every step is productive and going to give a pragmatic and practical way out to understand or to cut off this chain, cut off this circle and open it up either at the Namarupa Vijñāna level or at the Salayatana level, at the self-restrainment, or at the contact level, by the feeling level, at the understanding of this internal desire, your own intrinsic, the nature of desire. So each and every place the Buddha find the weak point and highlighting the weak point, how to attack it. And then the Buddha is asking, the Phagguna is asking, who is responsible for this desire? How does it happen? And who is creating it? Then the Buddha says that is not the fit question. There is no certain person behind the desire. And desire, you have to ask how the desire is creating, how the desire is leading for this kind of pain and pleasure discrimination. The Buddha says it is due to the grasping. Desire is conditioning. Grasping is ultimately you will be fanatically hold into this pain and pleasure business, hedonic philosophy. So therefore, one has to understand the desire is not much of a big culprit, but it is a starting point. That's a seed. When you grow in an unhindered way, definitely it will never stop at the desire level. It will go into this grasping level, and then you will be carried away, and you will be taken for the vortex and the acceleration. Ultimately you have to suffer the loss. So therefore the upadana or the grasping is come into being. So the Buddha says, if someone understanding this the perpetual acceleration and continuity of this cause and effect relationship, one has to understand this everyone, and then whenever break one or the other link, that will going to give a chain action. The breakage of all the other links happens. So therefore, if you do not try this, and if you keep all the links are solid, they also going to give the constructive or accelerating kind of chain action, then the samsaric journey will be everlasting. But whenever you try to break it or thin down or calm down, then the chain action going to weaken the situation. You get a better upper hand and the mastery about this kind of thing. So therefore, that is the way you have to take the situation under control with your spiritual faculties, and that is the basic teaching of the Buddha. So therefore, in the meditation, if you go back to the place where the critical place where the breath is becoming very subtle, and you go to a novelty where you can't explain, and if you can master it, if you can see through it, if you can go beyond it, again the same feelings and the perception, manifestation of the mind going to happen. Now the body is calmed down and the mind is not much connected with the corporeality, it is rather free from, and then again the mind become busy, engaged with very subtle feelings, amplified tone of feelings and perception. When that happens, if you are going to claim them, this feeling is something to be worried about or get engrossed, that is how the subtle level of desire, tanha, going to work. So you have to understand, when the body become calm, breath become calm, the mind become calm, the internal library shots, the memory, going to become manifest. They become amplified. So when that amplification happen, it appear like an unexpected nuisance. So therefore, if the yogis are not well instructed, they will think that at that level I expected rather calming down of the mind, but instead what is happening is, there's so much of feelings going to happen. All over the body, it appear like a beehive is agitated. Everywhere it is flying. And there are positive or negative reaction. Assuming it itself represents this craving nature. So when the craving happens, definitely grasping going to happen. So therefore, if you go prepared, either feeling or perception, the sanya or sankhara, one or the other will crop up according to your personality trait. Whatever it arises, rather you have to study to see who am I, to understand what type of a personality am I, and there are a non-reactional way, taking this tanha, taking this craving, is going to create a new turmoil. So therefore, not to get committed, either by desire or hatred, you have to train yourself, and it is rather mental preparation. It is not the bodily fighting, but be prepared there. And of course, that calming down of the breath gave certain amount of skillfulness for you, how to calm down the mental aspects of the Vedana, Sanya and Sankhara. Exactly the same thing. It is an unassuming way. The Phagguna's question is, all are assuming. There's one person, one entity, one cursor, one creator. But the Buddha is giving the answer in the unassuming way. Don't think so. There is no person. These are happenings, but there you have a better chance not to claim them, not to assume them, not to react, or not to have a choice. So when that both come into the proper meditation and come into the subtle level, and your mind set prepared in an unassuming way, you can experience what does it mean by the Nibbana, or what does it mean by the Buddha, that cessation, slowly in a gradual basis. That means under your very nose. It is not something heavenly, it is not something beyond this life, it is not something beyond towards the next Buddha's dispensation. Now everyone, I hope, day by day, experiencing, go into these subtle layers, and more you go there, you have to assimilate your own ways and means, and for that, your meditation, the experience, under the nose experience is crucial. But your theory and the deductive knowledge is also very important. And good role models, that is the noble friends, those who are very equanimous, not much short-tempered, not quickly reacting, also giving a comfort zone. And endurance, and not to expect overnight, not to expect by one episode. It has to run 1,001 times for the reinforcement, also necessary. So when it is happening, you will easily understand it is not limited to sitting. It is not limited to walking. It is an overall picture. Of course, you do it in the laboratory level, under the control situation in the sitting meditation, but the walking meditation is semi-intensive. There are here and there some uncontrolled situation, but in the day-to-day activities, everything beyond your control may be multitasking, but even then exactly the same thing, exactly the same principle. So once you tested, once you with the credibility, the verifiability in the sitting, mind you, the mind will understand the method, the methodology, the ways and means, and how to put into the day-to-day activities. And it is, no one has to regiment it. Once you see, it is happening. The Krishnamurti, when he is explaining it, and people asking, and what are the ways and means to do it in the day-to-day activity, and the multitasking, and how it is for the males, and how it is for the females, how it is for the ordained people, how it is for the non-ordained people. It's so much of questions. But there is no answer for this. He says, when you are walking in the dusk, the light is not clear, and now you are walking without a torchlight, and you are about to step down, and there is an object. It appears like a thread, or sometimes maybe a serpent. You don't know. So if you are precautious, if you are cautious that there is a dusk and the serpents may be, and you don't have a torchlight, and if it happened to be just before tramping, before stepping off, if you come to know it's a serpent, he's asking, should there be any specialist to say which direction you must run? Which leg is to take first? No. You know if you keep it, but it got consequences. So therefore, once you see it, the body knowledge will work. It's not necessary to wait and ask for the specialist advice to how to run, how to escape it. That's the body knowledge. So therefore, only thing is you have to let the mind just split second before, without committing, electrically, let the mind to see it, and that mind will take the answer. So how is not it's not a good question. If the body knowledge knows, because behind the body has its own natural selection. It has its own defense system. Only the wise thing you have to do is the inside, not the outside. Whenever possible, let the mind to go deep in and show it how the mechanism is working, how the formula is working, how much it is without an agenda. So when that happens, when you expose back into the day-to-day life, that if you have really seen it in the laboratory condition, in the sitting meditation and in the meditation center, Don't think that you can erase it from your memory in the day-to-day activity. But equally, don't try to accelerate it. Don't try to be smart. The mind has its own pace. That is we call simply in the Western terminology, the body knowledge. So you have to open it and show in the laboratory condition, conducive condition, and then show it as vividly as possible, as meticulously as possible, as vigilantly as possible, as mindfully as possible. And then once the mind absorbed the idea, it know how to implement it in the uncontrollable situation, in the difficulties in the life. So therefore, whatever the time you have taken to see it in the microscopic way, it definitely going to work in the macroscopic way. So therefore, there is no one particular link, there are a number of links. There is no one particular character type, there are a number of character types. Each and everyone has the equal opportunity. No one is better off. And the thing is diagnosing who am I and what is the weakest point, the opportunity, the circumstances are going to give. So you must be taking the maximum opportunity, that is called Kshana Sampatti. They take in the opportunity. And if it is so, each and every moment is quite electric. And if you use it, each and every moment, you become rejuvenated. If you are not using it, the senility. You will go back more than the time runs, and you will become old age and sickness going to happen. So if you are ready to use it, and electrically, you can say you are living, and the mind and the body assimilate so much of body knowledge, ultimately you never feel that you are away from the Buddha, you are away from the Dhamma, away from the Sangha, and away from your own precepts. So that enlightenment and this living is having a taste of enlightenment. So therefore try to live up to that. Don't expect the fully enlightenment and all the kind of thing. Do the little thing. Each and every moment, the cumulative effect is amazing, incredible. So therefore, mindfulness throughout this whole journey is just work like a thread in a garland, and it is binding all the other good qualities and leading to the frictionless path. So I hope these days the experience and the teachings and everything was helpful for you to assimilate your own ways and means, and by that way you may make the life easier, make the meditation like a hobby, and make it a lifelong experiment. Thank you very much for listening. This is the end of the day's talk as well as the series of the talks also. So today also we can take little time for any comments or discussions, if anyone has any comments on this talk or on the series. And so I welcome for the sake of Dhamma discussion.
Achieving the subjects of what follows. Is it right to say that observing the meetings of the birth, any sharp, such as the coolness and the nostril, those would not be very useful, rather to go on that route that and last life would be more conducive to the breath become a subtle.
But the subtle breath is not the destiny itself. It's a sign. It's a symptom that you are on the correct path. So you are going further and further, sharpening the mindfulness. We'll say you are target shooting. The target becomes subtle and subtle. But still if you can shoot it, that means your shooting capacity increases. If this target is very gross and close and kind of thing, it is not much of a sportsman. Target must be very challenging and subtle. Still if you can shoot the target, that you are, marksman. You become a good marksman. So the Buddha selected the target. Day by day it becomes subtle. Day by day it becomes challenging. Day by day it becomes fragile. But still you keep on shooting. You becoming a marksman. Good marksman. There's an obscurity in your question. It is not really phrased. I don't know.
What I was noticing today, the practical nature and all these things which we usually feel and appreciate very much in the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes doesn't become very subtle. Whereas if you just simply look at the in and out nature of the way, it becomes subtle faster.
That means telescopic. All the long-lasting experience quickly can come. But you must not worry, you have not seen that stage, this episode, that is not the case. Somehow or the other you have come to the subtlety and start right there. Don't look back and see that yesterday it took 10 minutes, today it came by 2 minutes, why is it then? So that is the good part of this question and answer. Specifically if you are in a good atmosphere, you are in the momentum, good mood, easily you can get it. But if you break it and again when you go back, sometimes it may be again, it takes little time. But you must understand, whatever it may be, what is you are aiming at and how to make the opportunity and proceed from there on. Yeah. No, that you are losing the contact of materiality. When the materiality becomes subtle and subtle, it's a very good opportunity for the mentality to come. As far as the materiality is there, it is very gross, it is very rude, so therefore mentality won't come. When the materiality goes on very subtle layer, you shift over from the materiality to the mentality. The feeling, perception and the volitions. So there it appears like a nuisance increasing like, but it's a different mode. Other material. No, I would say that when the physicality, breath, the corporeality reduces, you come to the immaterial kind of pleasure. Yeah, that means it is like when you are putting the plane autopiloting, it's a kind of a nice, when the plane put into the autopiloting, the captain has a release. The computer is taking care about. So you are now enjoying the autopiloting. So it's, the lack of contact is a release. That release is called immaterial pleasure. That's a kind of endowment, but that is not directly coming. At the beginning you are being bored and the fearfulness and all the thing happens. So you slowly see through them. And when that mastery happens, only this, the immaterial pleasure come into being. That also will be a trap. Just like the boredom. So you have to avoid both. And then once you see the middle part, then only the materiality going to manifest, whether you are a feeling type or you are perception type or you are volitional type. So there it manifests. Don't make it as a complaint. Don't make it as something to be grumbled about. Think that when the materiality is tackled very nicely, this is going to happen. This is more diagnostic. You have a better chance to see who am I now. Because you are unveiled from the materiality, the gross disturbances. So you can understand it. Yeah, that it is not concrete. It can change it. There may be some concrete personality too, but still keep the room for the changing nature. The how to call impermanent nature is happening. But whatever it happens, don't reject it. Understand it is informative as to see who am I. So therefore when the feeling happens again and again, you have to understand I am a kind of affectionate kind of person. Feelings are the bottleneck. Don't fight, don't think that I am such an unfortunate person. When the meditation goes very nicely, why this feeling happens? That is destructive. You have to understand, this is my personality trait. Some people are going to get the perception, the sanya, and that particular person will never complain about the pain. They will consider about the different views and all the kind of dreams, signs, labels come into being. Yet another kind of people have the volitional, they are rather moralists, regretting sometimes about the mistakes and thinking about the future perfection of the life regarding the morality, that kind of thing. I mean, these are different character traits different people have. If it is so, you can't make them out, whether it's a feeling or perception or this thing, you feel little bewildered, but often it is polarized to one particular type. So it is not a must, but it's additional information or byproduct for you to think about who am I. So you have to judge. Don't go to a, permanent judgment, that you have to accumulate more and more information, then only you will be enriched to make a conclusion. No, the Paramita bhikkhave chittang agantuke upakkilitang panchako tang asutoto putajjano nappajanati so asutoto putajjanassa chitta bhavana natti iti vadami. That is, the Buddha says, the mind is naturally lustrous and it is covered, smeared with the agantuka upakkilesha. That means external dust or rust or kind of grease. So that the normal Putujjana do not know. He see only the dust, he see only the crust. So therefore he totally rejects it, telling it is filthy. But it is just a layer. So therefore such a person will never think about meditation for purification, because he think it as a ball of rust. So therefore such a person never even give a fight. But instead, the mind is lustrous, only the outer layer is the rust. That the Suttavato Arya Savako Janati. The person who has listened to the Buddha, he knows it. So therefore he will fight to get rid of the thin layer. Definitely he knows inside there's a huge, the brightness, the positivity. So such a person will fight, give a fight and meditate in order to realize the inner bliss. So asking this lustrous nature, the Prabhasara, it says, now if you look at the sky, it appears dark. Not that sky have no light, but there is nothing to reflect. When there is nothing to reflect, even the light appears like a darkness. So therefore, whenever the mind is becoming knowing a dust, any kind of thing, it may be full of lustrous, or that means it can be a darkness also. There is nothing to reflect. There is nothing to hit against. So likewise that you must not understand that mind it's a glowing lustrous. And it says it is like the transparent glass which it is crystal clear. So it won't disturb your vision. So mind is something like the crystal clear glass, and it is not disturbing, it is not opaque. It is transparent, 100% transparent. So you can say it is like lustrous. Yeah, that mind is a no mind in the sense. That mind is no mind. That is called big M mind. Not the capital A, it is a capital M mind. We are talking about the simple M mind. On the way, you can really see the contrast, because you are coming from the dirty place, and when you go to the purity, it is very really dramatic. When you go to the purity, it is nothing to compare with. So whenever, for example, we all had the grade 2 exam. When we are preparing for the grade 2 exam as the children, it was a very big thing for us. And one day we got past, we come running and telling that we got it. But now we can see the second person coming and telling we got the second grade exam and good. This is second grade? What is this? Because now it is no more, because we have gone through the universities and kind of thing. Now second grade becomes nothing. But when we are doing it, that's the whole life. Likewise, when the Vipassana Jnana develops, we are starting from the very dirty place, and slowly we go there. When you go to the full purity, so then what? It becomes a norm. So therefore, when you go there, it is nothing to compare. You have to compare with some inferior, but the purity of mind is incomparable. It is called absolute. Kevala and Hudu, Asamasama. There are many words telling that it is not relative. Because when the mind becomes pure, it is going beyond the relativity. So you have no conceit of comparing with other one, because it is go beyond this measuring language, measuring capacity or the conceit. So no use of talking about that. The mind is the consciousness, that is what we call, when Samma Ditti means no Ditti, and any Ditti is Micca Ditti. Therefore Samma Ditti is no Ditti. The enlightened mind means no mind. The mind means consciousness, that as far as you are conscious about, that means you are in this world. You are in this mundane world. When you go beyond that capacity, when that you transcend it, no consciousness. It is no web to hold the wind. There is no net. It's gone. Very difficult to put into these conventional words. It is beyond this grammar. Only thing is you can experience it. And the Mahasi he says that in a country like us, now recently we had the dragon fruit, special kind of thing. So someone come and says there's a special fruit called dragon fruit, and I become very enthusiastic. What is this? How is that? Then I have to, the other person has to, it is not banana taste, it is not mango taste, it is not mangosteen taste, it is not rambutan taste. You can say a list of no tastes, but still the other person can't. So only thing you have to get a piece of this thing and ask them to put on the tongue. Instead of everything, the communication happens. So likewise when the direct touch happens, all the theories and all the deductive knowledge become nullified. You understand what nonsense this is. When you go there, you better shut your mouth up. And that is the best way. The half-hearted thing, that our knowledge is always chattering, asking how is that and this is that, that indicate that half-boil. When full boil happen, no chattering. I mean that this is 8 unappropriate conditions. Beyond that only this opportunity is there. Atta dutthakkana nama vinikshana sampattiya. That is in Sinhala it says. That means if you are in the, if your faculties are not properly working, and if you are in the, or you are in hell, or you are in the Peta world, or the animal world, no opportunity. If you go to the asanya satta, let's know the neva sanya na sanyayatana sphere, you can't do it. If the Buddha dispensation is not there. Those who are coming within that capacity have the equal opportunity. Others have no opportunity, no comparison. Atta duttakkana means that under such circumstances they have no chance. But other people exceeding these chances, if they are going to get this opportunity, but still if they are going to miss it, it is worse than the other thing. It is what you call ignorance. That is what is the definition for the ignorance, the darkness, the lack of knowledge. You must not miss the chance. Ignorance is the basic first and foremost cause. Avidya pacca sankara, sankara pacca vijnana. Ignorance, the darkness. There's no medicine for that. For that disease, no medicine. Any other thing we can think about. Huh? But they are not doing meditation, that is why, that is the question. They are not thinking about, they entertain the darkness, and the Visuddhimagga it says, the people has the craving for the ignorance. For the ignorance, so therefore they are ever falling into the perpetuation of the suffering. And they crave that I call myself is my ignorance. When I say it is my liking, it is my disliking, don't come and interfere with my personality and all the kind of thing, that I am fighting for my ignorance. What else? And then we are endowed with so much of suffering. To that much of adamentation, we get the result immediately in the proportionate amount of suffering. So whenever we are fighting for the ignorance, our lion's share, our fair share of ignorance. That is my human right. We are fighting for our human rights, means we are fighting for our fair share of our knowledge. Why? How can you tell that I have my rights to have my ignorance? Why don't you come and poke fingers into me? That's what we say. Yeah, but dannawada man kawuda kiyala. So yeah. Still I won't get the question.
A person person, before that, they are not making
No, they understand it, they try their best. But still, up to the ignorance, up to the amount of ignorance, they have their own personality. They are fighting for their rights and kind of thing. That is due to their ignorance. But more and more you become mature, more and more you become endowed with the vipassana jnana, no fighting. You are right to adopt into whatever it happens. And that is called apannaka pratipada, aviruddha pratipada. You try your best to not to fight. You must your best to not to antagonize anybody. And it appears like nonjal. Nonjal means that you are like no backbone. You are not fighting like. But the Buddha said that is the only way. It's called samichi patipanna, arana pratipada, apannaka pratipada, aviruddha pratipada. So Buddha says that he gives the full license. Don't fight for anything. Because that means you are losing the present moment to yourself. Definitely you are fighting for something trivial than your present precious moment. So therefore, back to the point that mind your own business. So Bodhisattva is slowly purifying, but still has a certain amount of ignorance. So therefore he claims. He assumes, he reacts, he has a choice. More and more you go there, when you come to the unassuming type, that is the highest opportunity, or the kshana sampatti. And then he is just, it is called tatata. Tatata means that he is just going with the nature. That is called Taoism. Taoism in the Chinese words. The Buddha is not Tathagata. Tathagata means he is just the nature. Never fighting against the nature. He tries his best to fit into the nature, that's all. So there is no friction. There is no maintenance. There is no antagonism. So he is becoming yet another grain of the sand bed. He is not claiming I am a special grain. Dissolving into the sand bed. Vedana paccaya tanha, that is what I explained. Vedana is due to Vedana, the Vedana manifests according to the tanha. They are reciprocal in nature. The meditation is to make Vedana paccaya panya, not the tanha. If you do not, if you wish to tackle the Vedana, you have to understand Vedana become Vedana, so pleasurable or painful, due to your own liking and disliking. Otherwise the feeling itself has no intrinsic pleasure and pain. You color it according to your likings and dislikings. So therefore, whenever the overall tanha is reducing, will be less and less carried away by the feelings. Will be rather confined into the moderation, the middle area. So therefore each and every link in the Paticcasamuppada has a reciprocal way. This way and that way. And it is most tricky in between Vijnana and Namarupa. They are forward and backward is so swift. So both of them has to take as a one unit. But in Vedana Tanha, that kind of thing, we are familiar with the literal way of, due to the Vedana Tanha arises. But then due to the Tanha again the Vedana arises. So therefore when the reciprocal thing happens, it is philosophy. Philosophically you have to first think, but pragmatically we can see only one side of the trip, one side of the cycle. But when you keep on practicing, you understand the subconscious is keeping the other part closed. The day that also become, the whole cycle you can see. So therefore, in the 12 limb cycle, each and every link is a vulnerable point you can break. Each and everyone equally be a hook or shackle for you to bind into the samsara. So therefore different people break in the different places. Kayagata Sati. So Kayagata Sati has, I think, 18 or something modes. If the Anapana is working, that's a very good sign, not necessary to go for any other thing. If the Anapana is not working, then you have to go according to a rough, gross object. So Anapana is a very subtle one. If you can catch it, it's the shortest cut. In case of a failure, you have to think alternatives. So that is what the message you get in the Anapanasati Sutta. And in the Kayagata Sati Sutta also, the Buddha starts with the Anapanasati. Punchaparam Bhikkave, if I would like to give yet another one, then he gives the second. Yet another one, the third. So that means the priority is for the Anapanasati. So if someone can manage with the Anapanasati, someone can be face-to-face with the Anapanasati, itself is a good sign. That means we have taken the shortest cut. And if it is possible, if it is progressing, you must have a positive way towards Anapana. That your statement I clearly understand, but I never mention unintentional volitions are you are responsible. Buddha says you are not responsible, don't worry about them. Don't frustrate upon them. That is the way you are making unwanted suffering. Jivite mal vihin pal. So you find a reason to be worried. Something you are not done, it's intentionally. And there's a very nice dramatic incident during the time of the Buddha. There was a nuisance, how to call the rebellions. Not the rebellions, they are the Mampaharna Horu, highway robbers. 500, very difficult to catch. Ultimately, the king managed to get them to the court. And they all found guilty. But it was a problem how to execute them. 500. It's a very difficult task. So then the king told, if one of you is going to be an executor, he will be saved. You have to execute all the others. So there has been the latest comer to that team, has no team feeling. He took the task. He was the last one joined to the team. Other has a real team meaning, that team understanding, so they can't kill the other brothers. But he took it. Ultimately, his king gave the post for him to be the royal executor. So he was now executing. After 55 years of the time, he found he can't cut the throat at the one shot because he is weak. He has to cut it, and ultimately it is very it's torturing. So ultimately he asked for the pension and went home. The day he go home, he found that he was so, on calls. All the time he has to be very busy. So now he feels happy. So what he did was, he had a very nice bath and prepared the milk rice. And he was about to eat after the first day. And the Venerable Sariputta came for a Pindapata. So he has never been in these spiritual grounds, but he is coming and waiting with the plate. He thought of giving little. So taking the chance, Venerable Sariputta was never leaving. He was staying in front of the house, thinking as if, can I go into the house and have this? Like, then the person told maybe he is asking for something to seat for a seating, and a spittoon and the water. He told, that's no problem. You can come to my house, I can give a seat and give all the facilities. Then Venerable Sariputta really entertained this milk rice. Then he told, it is my duty to give a little sermon now. So that person do not know what is happening. So he sit and now listen. And Venerable Sariputta says, one has to be very the morally perfect, and the concentration must be very clear, and the wisdom must be top and kind of thing. That person found very uncomfortable. So he is moving here and there and he can't listen. Venerable Sariputta asked that, I am delivering the talk, you are not listening. One day you are talking nonsense. Whole life I was killing people. So how can I be moralist? How can I think about the moral? And how can I think about the one-pointedness? What wisdom I have? I belongs to the bandits. Then Venerable Sariputta asked, is that the case? So then he asked, when you are killing the person, do you have any hate towards him? No, I have no hate, but the king has been decided. So, do you have any intention to kill people? No. I kill because it is my duty. Then you understand, do you understand that each and every killing is you are not responsible? Then it became a very big opening for him. Then Venerable Sariputta told, this is how you worry. But the Buddha says, Chetanaham bhikkhave kammam vadayam. You have no chetana to kill that particular person, but it is due to the king's order. And then taking this little space, he preached Dhamma. Ultimately he went up to according to the book it says, Sallakkana Viti. Sallakkana Viti means almost Sankarupekkha level. He can come. So he can't believe, because within the one sermon he became a completely new person. And then when Sariputta went off, by this person also, Venerable Sariputta never took the ball back. So he has to go with the ball. Halfway he took the ball and he went home back. When going there, wild or mad cow came and killed him. Attack him and killed. And it became a case now. And then ultimately the Buddha told, he has gone to heaven. And the verdict came. Then everyone is telling, how can that happen? Because throughout he was a killer. And for the last moment he had the chance to listen to the Venerable Sariputta. And Buddha says, whatever it may be, you are looking the truth from the conventional point of view. But in the absolute form, it's a completely different story. That is what I am telling. It is better than listening to 1001 poems and the stanza in the well-written and well-singing. But listening to one particular verse with the wise person will do the task, just like Sariputta. So he managed to not to go into the hell because Venerable Sariputta convinced him that is not due to your intention. Even you committed, it is your job, it is your duty, you are dutiful, and it is beautiful. When you become dutiful, and it is not the intention. So therefore, the Buddhism is not to, I don't know, in Sinhala it says, Paukarayata gal gahana. Buddhism is not that. It is taking even the Paukara, if he is ready to take the opportunity, giving him a chance, giving him a fresh chance to change himself. And Paukarya will change very quickly than the Pinkarya. Because the Pinkarya is too much of mana. He is full of conceit. He says, I must have heaven in my certificate. I must have this blessing and that kind of. But the Paukarya, even with the trivial thing, he will be very happy because he knows. So therefore that normal Buddhists are so disqualified to understand the Dhamma. The non-Buddhists and all the other people coming all of suddenly from the street, if you can enlighten him, the electric thing can happen. So it is, most of the time is go along the normal stream, and there are a lot of cases going against the stream, and they get the opportunity, they can cut through. So this is in the Dhammapada, the Thambadatika Vastu. Thambadatika is the name of that, the bandit. So it's a very nice. So he wants to escape yourself, and anyone will create, if they have not the team, the idea, he will understand, I will get the chance to not to kill myself, otherwise I will be executed. He escaped, and what he has to do he has to do this task. And I will give another joke. And one day the one bandit caught up in the court, and the king told that you have been fined for my capital punishment. And he says, I will give a pig. The way you kill the pig will be the way you will be killed. So what he did was, took the pig by the tail and hammered. And the pig was killed. But that particular person don't have tail. Escape. So likewise that there's one point over there also. But the Venerable Hariputta's way is to give him an opportunity, and not to cut off all the worries, cut off all the frustration, because we are masters to frustrate. We are finding reason after the reason to frustrate. We don't know how to rectify it. We always think if you have a lot of frustration, that means a good responsibility. It is our responsibility to have a lot of frustration, then only we become someone. Otherwise we become just a citizen John. So what the Buddha is teaching is completely other way around. Even if you have, which is happening due to the unintentional motivation, you erase it off, and then the mind become positive. Mind find a reason to be glad rather than reason to be frustrated. Okay? So almost 10 o'clock. If there are no other questions or statements, we can use the time for sharing our merits in the traditional way. To share the merit with all the seen and unseen beings, help promoted this retreat. May rejoice the merits we are happy to share with them. Always, equally all the relatives, dear and near ones, may you, wherever may be you all, please look at this place and see here, and may you be capable to be here and entertain, and we are ready to share with our merits, with all our dear and near ones. And finally, may all the skillfulness, the knowledge, the experience help us to straighten our objectives and remind our objectives again and again, so that we will not be negligent, we will be ever mindful and vigilant, so that we can see the end of this suffering in this very life and in this very dispensation of the Gautama the Buddha. With this idea, we are going to recite the traditional stanza in order to share our merits with all the beings. Ettavata cagammehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya Pittavata cangammi sambetang punya sampedang sabbi bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Pittavata cangammi sambetang punya sampedang sabbi satta anumodantu. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakhantu sāsanam. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakhantu desanam. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakhantu mang parang. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukitā hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammene māmi bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammene māmi bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Imina punya kammene māmi bāla samāgamo. Satang samāgamo hotu yāva nibbāna pattiyā. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So tomorrow we will be meeting here at 8 o'clock and have the final session named as a question and answer session. And then 9 to 10 will be a walking session and 10 to 11 will be a sitting. And 11:30 the lunch, and that will be the end of it. And with this arrangement I have the chance to leave the place at 9 o'clock. So therefore, we'll be administering the 5 precepts at 8 o'clock. Will be 9 o'clock, and that will be that I will take leave. I am going to spend the day in the Subodharama. That is, normally I am giving one Saturday for them. Tomorrow it will be for the rest of the you all. After the lunch, you will be take leave after the retreat. That is an announcement. Thank you very much. Abhivādana sīlisse nicchaṃ vaddhā pacāyino cattāro dhammā vaddhanti āyuvanno sukhaṃ balaṃ āyurārogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbāna sampatti imināti samijjatu. Sukhi hotu, sukhi.